Hello.
Hello.
There I am.
Hey, everybody. And we're here for a Billy and Mandy little reunion. Maxwell's here.
Hey.
Richard, Gray. How are you guys? Thank you so much for being here.
Where's Gray?
I couldn't.
Where's Gray?
Where is Gray?
It turned off my video, but now I'm okay. Start my video.
Start video.
There it is.
Yay!
Hey.
I got my own bangs, and I did a really.
You know what? You're always cutting your own bangs,
I
but we never get
know.
to see you cut your own bangs.
I almost did it like as a Zula and went like bang, hair, face your doom. But then I was like, what if I really screw them up and then it's on camera? I can't do that. And they're short. Anyway, okay, I'm getting over what I look like on camera. Okay, hi.
Hi. I hear that you guys make cartoons, and you made a really cool cartoon. Maybe tell us a little bit about it.
What was it?
Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy.
Oh,
What's that? I thought this was an Avatar panel.
I work a lot, Richard.
Clearly.
We have a joke about it. Every time we text each other, we're like, "Oh, are you working? Are you?"
Yeah. So, because just an inside story, one time, Gray said to me in the studio, which is one of my favorite things ever, and I've never forgotten it, is she goes, I love people that go, oh my gosh, I thought of you the day I was on my way to Warner Brothers, but my gardener called and they said that the sprinklers were out, and they do this whole story, and Gray goes, so you're working, because the whole point of it was that they were on their way to Warner Brothers.
There's always some extra information about working in there that
Yeah.
did, and it's like, oh, that's what you really wanted me to hear. Okay, I'm not.
Gray and I did a show together virtually. We did a record for Loud House virtually out of our home booths, and Gray was just like not even paying attention. And I wrote and I went, "What are you doing right now?" Because I watched her. She's like, "Oh, what'd you say?" What did you say?
I just cussed. Sorry, I was like, "See if I'm full of S." Sorry.
Yes, just to see. But then I see her do this.
What did we do like for Billy and Mandy recordings? Because nobody had cell phones.
There was no
When we
reception
started
at Cart.
listening.
Even if you did, there was no reception in there.
Right? Were you reading? What were you doing? Like most of the time, you were looking at something, and I can't remember what it was.
My own reflection.
Maybe it was
my
the
own
script.
Reflection.
It
I
might
had
have
a
been the
little
script.
vintage cameo that I was just like, "What's in there?" Anyways.
I hijacked your show. So Maxwell, tell us about the grim adventures of Billy and Mandy.
Well, it's a show that we all worked on together for what 7 or 8 years or something.
Yeah, I think it was about 8 or 9 years. Actually.
Yeah.
What year was the pilot?
The pilot was 2000, I think, was when it
Okay.
aired.
And it went to series a couple years later.
It was almost directly after that. Like
Okay.
it took so long for everything to happen. Like
it seemed like forever though, because we were on a You Choose weekend.
oh God, yeah. Well, that part, yeah. Once it got through that stage, it was a little faster. It only took 5 more years to get up to speed, but yeah, the Big Pick weekend was how it all started. It was democracy in action for children, where there were three different cartoons, and you had to call in and vote on which one you wanted of the 3. And it was Billy and Mandy, Whatever Happened to Robot Jones, and Long Hair and Double Dome. And everybody called in and did their duty to their democracy. And
duty.
I had a big dilemma on whether or not I should vote for myself. I might have done that. And then at one point, Cartoon Network called and they were like, "Hey, yeah, you won." And I was like, "Yeah." And I called my family and I called all my friends, and then I hung up the phone and it rang again, and I picked it up and they were like, "Hey, this is Cartoon Network again. Don't tell anybody anything yet, because we're not quite sure exactly what's going to happen." And that was kind of like the next 7 years in a nutshell. Was like
it was
all like super hot or super cold. It was always like, "We love you, like let's make more." And then it was just like, "All right, your whole crew's gonna leave, and I guess you're getting canceled, so we're throwing you a rap party." And then we'd have a rap party, and then 2 weeks later they'd be like, "Bring everybody back."
It was a long time between the You Pick and the actual going to series. I remember it was 2 years, at least 2 to 3 years, wasn't it?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't that
It seemed like forever.
I was like, we were the Snuggles the hamster of cartoons. We just wouldn't die.
Right. Yeah, I did think it was funny that we kind of had, we kept coming back from the grave.
Cannot kill us.
Yeah. I love that like when What a Cartoon and all that, where the audience of kids really chose what the next pilot would go to series, and I just really I wish that channel still did that. But yeah.
Yeah, even now I would say that's probably a horrible idea, but I ain't complaining.
Yeah. Am I getting I'm getting questions already. We want to jump in here.
Yeah, I'm seeing a few.
Yeah.
Ooh, quite a few.
Yeah, we have questions for each attendant here. Richard, what was your favorite memory playing Billy, and can you relate to him as a character?
Oh, that's that's a good question. Can I relate to him as a character? I think Gray, you can agree with this, that it's hard for us to like choose like our favorite characters because so much of ourselves go into these characters as we're working in those worlds. So relating to it as a character, yeah, I think that there's the childlike innocence and playfulness and silliness of Billy I can relate to in my own life. But my fondest memory is the day, and some of you may or may not remember, that Billy Hayes, Witchy Poo of HR Puffin Stuff, which was my fanboy experience. When I grew up on Sid and Marty Krofft. Yeah. And Billy Hayes, Chris Zimmerman, our casting director and booth director, said, "I have a surprise for you." And I said, "What is it?" She goes, "I'm not going to tell you until I record." And she goes, "Okay, you ready?" And I said, "Yeah." And she goes, "Here's Billy Hayes." I'm like, "Oh my God." And I'll never forget it because I did my Charles Nelson Riley for her, where I was like hoodoo. I was like, "Oh, hello, Weenie. Oh. And she said, "I wish Charles could see, myself, Charles, and Alice Ghostly. We all have our birthdays in the same week. So every year we get together for a dinner." And I went, "Oh my God, I would love to go to that." And she goes, "Oh, honey, you're not invited." So that's my favorite. I mean, I have a lot of favorite memories. Gray will tell you, we had lots of joking in the studio, and so will Maxwell. I mean, it was like, what were we, Tuesdays or Mondays? Tuesdays, I believe. Tuesdays, yeah. I always look forward to Tuesdays because, because these are like my favorite people. So we had
and back then we got you guys all in the booth at the same time somehow, including the guest stars usually. So it was kind of this. It was a really small booth, and it was just cool to have like 4 to. We had to change number of people in there.
We had to change one of our days. I think it was on Billy and Mandy because I was doing Invader Zim on the same day at Nickelodeon.
I think that's how we ended up with Tuesday, actually.
So I was working.
Yes.
And so I was doing Invader Zim, and then that one would just wreck my voice in the morning, and in the afternoon we would come in and do Billy and Mandy. And Maxwell said to me at one time, he said, "Have you been smoking like 6 packs of cigarettes a day?"
Well, and the amazing thing is, I was watching Hell of a Boss, the new Hell of a Boss episode, and you do.
What a wonderful show!
Exactly. You do that thing with your voice where you're just like, you do
it.
And I remember that so well, and I thought the only reason you could do that was because you were just out there chain smoking constantly.
Someone actually posted on our YouTube channel, he did the Horvitz honk. Did you see that, Viv?
Yes, I did. Because you explained it to me, like when we were recording, you were like, "You got one of my classic honks in there," and I had to use it. I was like, I can't not use that. It's so good.
There's my answer.
Yeah, you getting really starstruck was fun to watch because I know you grew up in the business. You've been working since you were a kid. You worked with all kinds of celebrities, but to see you get impressed by somebody was something I don't see besides when I walk into a room.
Yeah, that's true. I'm always impressed with Gray. I really am. I remember Gray and I were at an event. A friend of ours was getting married, and she doesn't remember this, but she looked at me and she goes, "I'm gonna be Mandy to your Billy." You remember that?
No, I don't remember. It was God.
Yeah.
Can we tell the story about how I got this part, Maxwell, or is that touchy information?
No, go for it.
Really? Okay.
There's nothing's off limits.
Maxwell was married to this woman who wanted to be an actress, and he created this cartoon and gave her a part in it. She was Mandy.
Well, to be fair, it was based off of a cartoon I did in college where I did Billy and she did Mandy. So
I know.
like
You're Billy.
When I started off, I was just like, well, this is just how it's gonna be, and then
I remember
it's a much longer and dumber story, but I will save that for another
Colette
day.
was directing the pilot. Colette Sunderman, who's directs Scooby-Doo, just Avengers, like all kinds of things. But she called me like late one night and she's like, "Gray, I may need you to come into Cartoon Network tomorrow. Are you available?" And I was like, "Sure, yeah. What time do you need?" She's like, "I'm not sure exactly. I'm trying to talk this guy." She's like, "He's just really talented and he's got like the world by the tail and he's got a really amazing show, but he's put his wife into the main part and it's just not working out." And I told him, "Do you want something to show your grandchildren, or do you want a hit cartoon? Because you're not going to have one if you leave this woman in the part."
Well, and the funny thing is, the sad thing was, on my end, she actually went over my head and didn't tell me any of this to my face. So that's been what's burned me for the last 20 years.
Well,
So.
in her defense, it was only because she believed. She's like, "Gray, this guy's
Well,
brilliant.
then
This
tell
cartoon." She's like,
tell
"This
the general manager to tell me.
I know. Well, yeah. Anyway, I showed up the next day and I was Mandy.
So you're working.
And then they got a divorce. So don't think that I'm like some kind of.
All right. Thanks, Gray.
I know. It's like it's because of me.
Later that same webcast.
Oh God. Anyway, I always tell like weird. Every time people are too appropriate, like I don't want to name names. I'm like, boring. I name names on every podcast. No one is.
My favorite moment with Gray, and I still kid her about this to this day. We were at a panel at a convention. It was a big room full of people, and she goes, "You guys want to talk to Maxwell?" And she calls him up on the phone, and she goes, "Hey, I'm on this panel with everyone that's going to say hi." And I finally went, "Gray, are you the only one on this panel?" She forgot to tell Maxwell that we were there. Gray,
and then at that moment, I realized that I wasn't only just not invited to a panel that Gray was at. I was not invited to a panel that the entire cast of Billy met.
Okay, but can I mention something? Okay, a few weeks ago, I hate to do, well, I mean, I don't hate to do it, but I mean, it's like I'm busy and I got a lot of stuff to do. And
so you're working.
Stop. No, Maxwell texted me. He's like, "Hey, do you want to do a podcast with me? Like, I'm doing this Scooby-Doo podcast for, because we did a Scooby-Doo.
I was surprised by this too, by the way.
Okay, good. Yeah, because he directed and did you write it too?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Remember that part I played on Scooby-Doo?
Like, can we talk about me for a minute? Anyway, we did this great. Everybody should go get it. It's the Halloween Scooby-Doo with Elvira. It's the latest Halloween. It's a little
Happy Halloween, Scooby-Doo.
Happy Halloween, Scooby-Doo. Anyway, he's like, "Do you want to be on this podcast with me?" I thought I would love to hang out with Adam for an hour. That would be amazing. Yeah, I got a sitter. I did the whole thing. I got the thing, and then I get on there and I'm like, "So where's Adam?" And the guy's like, "Oh no, it's just and I was like, Adam suckered me into this just so I can figure out by myself."
Well, I did exactly the same thing where I got on and it was like, "So is Gray here yet?" And it's like, "Oh no, Gray's coming on in like an hour and a half." And I was like,
I know. I only did it because I thought it would be fun. The guy ended up being lovely and we had a good time. But at first I was like, I just only said yes because I wanted to see Adam. Anyway, but all right, but we're fine now.
Someday we'll do Taco Bell.
While you guys were doing that, Vivienne and I were doing Hell of a Boss, huh?
Yeah.
So you're working.
Yeah, so you're working.
We should let Nico host this podcast, probably, huh?
Oh no!
Yeah,
I was like, these guys are gonna get together and just like reminisce. It's fine. I don't need to even say anything at this point. It's just like such a pleasure listening.
My favorite moment was when they said that they did a practical joke on me once because at the time I was married to this musician, and I had to take him. He was going on tour, so I just drove him to the airport in my pajamas. But traffic on the 405 was so terrible that I had to. By the time I got close, out of traffic and everything, I had to be at Cartoon Network. So I showed up in my ridiculous like flannel cowboy pajamas, and I had to do the whole session in my pajamas. So then a few weeks later, Chris goes, "Hey, as a fun thing, Chris, the director, Chris Zimmerman, as a fun thing, we're all gonna wear our jammies to the session in your honor. So we'll see you on Tuesday." And I was like, "Oh, how fun! That'll be great." And so I put my pajamas on and came again, and they all just cracked up laughing because nobody wore their pajamas. It was just day 2 of me recording in my pajamas anyway. But that was my favorite recording memory. Thank you, Chris Zimmerman.
On our very last day of recording, I think we finished early. I don't know what was going on, but we all just sat around and told dumb, disgusting stories for like an hour and a half.
That was every episode.
It was, but I don't know. Maybe it was because it was the last day, but these were especially touching and disgusting stories, and I still have that CD somewhere.
Oh, well, also, speaking of audio that I didn't know was going to ever see the light of day. Okay, so does everybody remember that, we had Grim Adventures?
Oh, get over it.
We had the Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy, but the companion series was called Evil Concarne, and
I never watched that.
You were too busy doing Invaders.
You were on one or two of those, I think.
Yeah, he had you in. Throw you a little bone. Anyway, but one day I was complaining about speaking of exes, so I was complaining about my ex-husband. I've had a lot of husbands. The one that was a musician was really nice. Let's not bring him into this. He's great. No, but
this is a whole different podcast.
Dr. Drew, where are you? No, I was married to this guy who was super cheap. He was like my very first husband. And I was complaining in the booth about how cheap he was and everything, and how he took me to he told me he was going to take me antiquing, but he took me to a thrift store, and he wouldn't let me get sun-dried tomatoes. It was like my birthday or something, and he wouldn't let me get sun-dried tomatoes on the pizza when he was taking. And I was like, just because they were like a fancy topping. He said, "Why can't you just get the Roma tomatoes?" Anyway, it was a whole bitch session. And so for one of the Evil Concarne episodes, I'm watching it, and all of a sudden, she's like, "Oh, Chief's not so bad, except for this one time." And then he took me to this thrift store, and he was like with a topic, and I'm like, and it's real audio from me complaining about my ex-husband. And then she kind of like pops back into character. She's like, "But anyway, other than that, I think he's pretty great." But oh my God, it was beautiful. It was beautiful. I wasn't mad, but I know that Robert, the engineer, Robert Serta over at Cartoon Network, has a lot of incriminating audio on me, just like filthy.
Still slip him a 20 every Wednesday.
Yeah, I gotta keep him happy.
Yeah, because a 20 will do it.
Maxwell and everyone here. Dylan's asking what are the main influences for Billy and Mandy and horror animation comedy?
For me, it was sort of my love-hate relationship with horror and the supernatural as a kid. Like it fascinated me, but it also just scared the bejesus out of me. And like I would fast forward through the heads exploding at the end of Raiders of the Lost Ark, or like Perseus cutting off Medusa's head at the end of Clash of the Titans, just like things I knew I couldn't handle. And I think I just wanted kids to not be as scared of like things that aren't real. I think that's kind of why I like Scooby-Doo too, is there's sort of this reality versus fantasy thing. And I mean, I love fantasy, don't get me wrong, but as a kid I needed that, and I think that was sort of the seed.
I never looked at Billy and Mandy as a horror genre or any of that, because I think that Billy and Mandy were just kids. I think Mandy was very goth-esque, but Billy just went along with everything. He wasn't really aware of nothing. Really scared Billy, except for spiders, and
clowns
and the mailman. I guess he was scared, but those are like normal things to be scared about. Right. It didn't strike him that there was this giant singing meteor. What was this thing? The Voltaire one, the
brains.
Yeah, it was a meteor.
Yeah, the brains, the giant singing brain. Billy's like, "Hey, what's that?" There it was. There it is, Viv.
So good.
I think
I tried to show it to my son when he was because my son was like maybe like 4 or something after it finally went on to It went on. I don't know. It was on TV. I was trying to show it to Tex, and he was like, "This is inappropriate. I can't watch this." And I felt like such a bad mom. I was like, "But it's funny. It's good."
Oh, great.
Like, no, it was just too disturbing. Too disturbing. Anyway.
This kind of ties into the next question: is was the show always meant to be a kid show? Did you have like a version of it where it was maybe like a little more horrifying or scary or like risque or I don't know, an Adult Swim kind of thing? Was it always kind of meant to be? Was it always a kid audience?
I mean, for me, it was always a family show. Like, what makes me happiest, I think, is like when I go to Comic-Con and somebody comes up with their kid and they're like, "Hey, like, we watched the show together and blah blah blah." Like, that's what I want. Is just like there to be something there that's entertaining for everyone, and
cool.
That's impossible, but I try.
There's a horror writer on Twitter that I became friends with. We just started chatting. And one night we were just talking, and he was like, "Hey, he's like, I have to just tell you this." He's like, I'm trying not to be like the guy that like, "Oh, you were on that show." He's like, "But I have to say, my stepson and I just watched every episode of Billy and Mandy," and he's like, "And I actually wrote a fan letter to Maxwell Atoms." Do you know the guy? His name's Keelan. Oh shoot. Anyway.
If it's in my Facebook Messenger thing, then I've never seen it.
Oh no! He wrote back. It was an actual letter. He wrote.
Oh God, I've never gotten an actual letter, so no.
Or maybe
sadly.
an email. Well, I don't know. He said you responded and that you were.
Okay, well then I did see it. Yes.
But he said he was so touched that you and he's like a big horror writer, but he just said like that show. He's like, that was so genius. It was such a great. It was something for the parents, something for the kids. He's like, my stepson enjoyed it just as much as I did, and anyway, it was just very, very sweet. Yeah, I tried to leverage that into some hot, phone action, but it didn't work out for me.
So you're working.
Working the Twitter DMs. All right.
This is a question for Maxwell and Viv. So tips for creating horror comedies, and I guess I'll add to that like when making something horror themed for kids, how do you go about that? How do you make sure it's not too scary or too intense, I guess?
I don't know. You want to go first? I've had to deal with standards, so I have my own set of experience.
Yeah.
I'm very curious about you.
With me? I have yet to have the challenge of making something kid friendly. Most of my cartoons so far have been very R-rated, so
they have.
I do. Yeah, I know they have. We're not allowed to curse on this, I doubt, but they have a lot of bad language. They have the F word in them. But
wow.
I think
watch that.
Demons saying the F word.
Yeah, I think pulling back though, like the way I would go about it, because I would love to make like a kid friendly, like I can. I think I'm more interested in the adult space just because like I like adult animated stuff better than kids, especially now that I'm an adult. It's just what I gravitate to, and the stories and everything there are just more interesting for me. But as far as like comedy and horror like going hand in hand, I think it's mostly just the dark sense of humor, because like even like recently like we have been rewatching like some of those old like darker cartoons like Billy, Mandy, Invaders and like Batman, like all that stuff, and I'm finding that it's more just like the sense of humor is dark, like people getting hurt for no reason, people falling off cliffs. Like there's one from Billy and Mandy that had me like in hysterics that I've always remembered since childhood, where like Billy's telling the story, like the fairy tale in the fairy tale episode with Pinocchio, and they push the dog off and they push the dog off the branch, and the dog just is falling like and barking, and then the end of the story is like, we got his vocal cords removed, and it's just the dog just doing that. Like I don't know, like things like that to me, like if you pull it back, it's really dark, but like in context it just works, and it's still kid friendly. So I think just going about comedy and horror stuff is more, and also in that same episode more horror themed is like when Pinocchio wants to like eat Billy, Like he's like, the only way I can become a real boy is
if I eat you.
Yeah. So I think
Scotty Menville played Pinocchio. He was so good.
Oh,
it's so good. I think it really is just taking something really like messed up, but like playing it kind of normal and like just having the characters react to it. Like I think that's a safe way of going about like typically horror themes, or like kind of coding them as something more like appropriate, I guess, like, you know, candy, or like, you know, like a lot of people use like robots to like do really dark horror stuff, but like
robots,
it's okay to dismember them and their guts coming out and everything. So I think it's just like coding it in something, or like not showing or implying things in kids media is better than like what I do in adult media is just show it. Like, you know, in the episode we worked on has like a full on like Texas Chainsaw Massacre like level blood and guts and dead bodies and stuff. So
yeah, it's funny because you can tell the jokes by just doing it, and then you can kind of tell them, like you said, by coding it. So
yeah,
that was kind of the approach I took on Happy Halloween Scooby-Doo, because I really wanted sort of a Dead Alive ending. You know, with
you're working
the lawnmower, which is so I'm working. Which is this super gross like Peter Jackson movie where there's all these zombies, and there's this ending scene where there's this guy who's a gardener, and he has this lawnmower, and he just picks up the lawnmower, and there's all these zombies just wandering into the lawnmower, and it's super gross, and everybody's just slipping in gore on the floor, and I was like, that's what I want for the end of the movie. But how do you do that with a kids movie?
Scooby-Doo.
And since I had pumpkins, I was like, well, just everybody ends up just like covered in orange pumpkin guts. So there's ways to do it, and weirdly everybody's like, well, how did you get away with all this stuff on Billy and Mandy? And I never got away with anything. Like, we just did it, and nobody ever said boo about it until 8 years in, when they decided to become a live action network.
Wow.
But for the most part, like the occult stuff and the sort of the creepy stuff, that got the least amount of notes, I think, just because they didn't know what to do with it. Like we had a couple people on our crew who were pranksters and would go and add tiny penises onto the storyboards while they were on the wall, and then they would get sent off to Atlanta, and I would get angry emails, and this was just part of the fun back then somehow. But like that stuff obviously is going to get, you know, pulled out. But yeah, most of the time what you see is what we presented, and there wasn't really a whole lot of argument.
I also think that I don't think that in any of the shows, because I have a tendency to be drawn to more dark stories, but what's funny is funny. And so I think that we don't necessarily set out to say, oh, this is dark or evil or anything. It's just, if you have the freedom, like on Hazbin Hotel or on Hell of a Boss or on Billy and Mandy to some degree, if it's funny, we do it. And so that, it just happens to be surrounded by, you know, a shot through a woman's eye.
Yeah. And honestly, like going back a little ways, like that's the reason we have a show, is because like I was saying, like we were always in danger of being canceled. So like if it got a laugh, it was staying. Like that was my policy, even if I didn't understand it, which led to some weird things, because there was like a Dave Chappelle skeet joke that got through me. And then I got a good talking to about that, and I was like, I don't know what this means, man.
Oh my god, I love it.
That was actually the next question, was did you ever have any problems with S&P or getting stuff past, you know, censors or anything like that? So that's cool that they didn't really give you a hard time.
Heavy. Yeah, there was like, I only remember like the really weird ones. Like there's an episode where Harold goes into the kitchen, and I don't remember the context, but there's like a giant snake in the kitchen. There's some joke where he comes out of the kitchen, and I guess the joke is that he went in there and he came out with the information, not that there's a giant snake, but that he has a donut. And we called the Donut of Bismarck, which is a kind of donut, but I guess it's also something you want to look up on the internet on your own time.
Oh, wow.
But we got like such a talking to about that, and I was like, look, man, I don't care, it's a donut. But yeah, it was a good relationship, honestly. Like, especially having been through other shows since then, like it was just open, and I asked him for what I needed, and we talked about how to get there. So
cool. Stephanie also asks, Maxwell, how/why were you decided to voice Jeff the Spider? Do you find you relate to that character or some other reason?
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of Jeff in me. I remember actually my dad at one point was talking to me about Jeff, and he's like, am I okay? And I was like, no, it's fine. Like that part. But I've always been sort of I'm not a natural public speaker. I'm thankful that there's not like a real audience that I have to imagine naked out there right now. So I think originally it was just a way to kind of get me out of my own shell. And it's also a lot of fun. So there's that.
Leslie, will the real ending to My Troubled Pony ever be made?
We can only hope. Like, I'm waiting for the call from Cartoon Network. They're under a new regime now. Anything can happen.
Yeah.
That would be honestly, if there's going to be a Billy and Mandy reboot / sequel, that's probably where it's going to go.
Cool. Is it old enough yet to be reboot material? Probably.
My Troubled Pony?
Oh no, Billy and Mandy. Yeah.
Oh.
Probably. I've been
probably.
it's always a good sign when there's memes from it, which I've seen a lot of Billy and Mandy memes this year. So
I guess I know. I have peers that have had their shows rebooted like twice since then. So
yeah.
Oh
Well, they're like every 6 months or so, I'll call Adam and I'll say, "Hey, Billy and Mandy is blowing up on the internet right now. Their memes are like going through the roof. Let's do a series." He's like, "Okay, get them to do it." I will say this.
There has been a lot of shuffling in the HBO Warner Brothers Cartoon Network neighborhood recently. So we shall see.
I will say this.
Like this is the podcast to do it. This is going to do it.
All right.
Here we go. Yeah.
I will say this. I think that the key to this success of the shows that I've been fortunate to work on is being able to work. Yeah, yes, it's me. Other than me, is the creative allowance and freedom that people like Maxwell and Vivienne and Jonan and Mitch Shower and the Angry Beavers gave to me, an understanding that I'm an improviser guy, and so my head is going like this all the time. And I think that the generosity on the part of the creators like Maxwell and Vivienne to let you just do what you do adds a lot to the success of a show, because no one has ever tried to rein me in unless it was necessary. Like Gray would go, "Can I do my line now?"
Or when I'll be like, "Yeah, it's only an 11-minute cartoon."
I'll give you a perfect example. So we did the Big Boogie Adventure, and this is my favorite story of all time on Billy and Mandy. And so we got the script, and we usually got the storyboard first. And, the storyboard was our script. So we would look through the storyboard, and we get to this scene where Billy sings this song called Scario. And it gets to the break where it's like this really, this 80s hairband singer. And I couldn't wait to do this part. And I get in there to record that day, and they go, "Oh no, we hired like an actual like hairband singer to do the part." And I'm like, "Well, but I'm Billy.
You know how talented I am?
You know who I think I am?" And Maxwell said, "If we have time before lunch, I'll let you do the part. I'll let you do it, and then we'll record the guy after lunch." I'm like, "Okay." So we're getting closer to lunch, and we're going over on this because it was a long thing. And he's like, "Okay, we're gonna break for lunch." I'm like, "Wait, what?" And so Adam told Chris, let him do it. And so I got to improvise a big part of it. "I'm not scared. I'm not scared. I'm just really, really hungry. I want a sandwich," because it was lunchtime. But Adam said, "That is Billy. That is Billy." And so we went with that. So I was always so honored by that, because that
It was so sad though, because the heavy metal guy had just had a baby, and so he got kicked out of his apartment, and he lost everything. It was just
he did so many other Billy.
I don't care. I'm working.
And they didn't pay Billy $1 more. He just wanted to take that money out of the mouth of that baby.
That's right.
He thought he was hungry. Think about that.
Yeah. I just really want a sandwich.
I like this question for everybody. What's the best part of giving kids good childhood memories because of Billy and Mandy?
Billing their kids later for babysitting fees. What's the best part? Gray?
It makes you feel good. There's that.
Yeah. And also, I think that death should be demystified, you know? Like, I had a friend who never told her kid about death, and, like, she was older before, and it was really hard on her, you know? I don't know, like, we would go on walks and things. I have a 3-year-old and a 6-year-old and a 13-year-old, but when I take my 3- and 6-year-old on walks, which we've been doing so much of during this pandemic, it's like, let's go on a walk. We're all just about to kill each other. Anyway, so we go on these walks, these nature walks, and we get nature, and we put it in the middle of the table for a new little centerpiece.
We get nature.
Get nature.
Get nature. Well, I taught him about, like, magnolia pods, and I'm like, what is this? Is it a jacaranda blossom? Like, I'm trying to teach him some science.
Owl pellets.
I'm homeschooling them, and they're learning more than they probably would have at the little hippie school that I had them in. Anyway, but you know, we saw a little dead bird, and they were like, "What is that?" And I was like, "It's a birdie," you know, and it died, and they were like, "It died," you know, and they, you know, I didn't want to, you know, I was like, "He's sleeping," because I just feel like that's just not, you know, it's like, oh, then they're afraid to go to sleep. I just feel like, you know, we need to talk about it, and I feel like it kind of does kind of help. So when we actually started watching Billy and Mandy because we ran out of, like, Halloween stuff to watch, and I was like,
"Oh,
hey,
great,
I know
thanks.
a Halloween." You were at the very bottom of the list. Bottom. I just don't like to watch my stuff. I don't like to watch my stuff with him, but anyway, sometimes things just seep into the ether. But I said, "Oh, you'll love this. It's kind of fun." And so when the hamster, they were like, my daughter goes, "And the hamster might die like the birdie," and I was like, "Yeah, I guess." I was like, "But he's not gonna die." So anyway, it's just, you know, I feel like we need to talk about it. CPS.
Yeah, there is that. Like, I think. Like I have a memory of my childhood dog Omar, who was named after Omar Sharif, flying off into the sky after my parents told me that he died, which is clearly not a real memory. But yeah, you know, I could use a little demystification. Like in the show's still big, from what I'm told, in Central and South America and India, where they frequently sort of reboot it in a Looney Tunes kind of way. But, you know, like other cultures, I think, have an easier time accepting death. And in somewhere in South America, there are Grim Reaper Doritos, which is amazing.
Oh, that's so fun. That's awesome.
Frame that bag.
Somebody send me a bag.
Yeah.
Viv, who is your favorite Billy and Mandy character?
Oh, man. There's so many.
Me. See me.
Of the main ones, I love all of them. I think my favorite was Grimm. I'm sorry, Richard. I really like Grimm. I like any kind of mystical character.
Man,
so he was like a
mod.
I'm sorry. Such a betrayal. But I love all the characters so much. Like, they're all like the most memorable characters.
I came back.
I'm sorry.
No,
but I think I'll give you this one, Richard. I think Billy is the funniest. Like, I think every time I would laugh,
I was frozen.
It was always from Billy, because, like, especially like I have a fun story as a fan of Billy and Mandy. I think I've told you this, Richard, but there was a Regal movie theaters, like the Regal movie theaters did these like little commercially things before the movies would start, and they would have like these tie-ins with Cartoon Network all the time. And I remember getting really excited because we'd just be in the theater to watch, you know, whatever movie, and, you know, on a massive screen, some of my favorite cartoon characters would show up just for this little, you know, featurette, I guess. And one of them, they showed the entire Destroy Us All scene from yeah, and I remember as a kid just being like, oh my god, one of my favorite scenes from Billy and Mandy is up on the massive screen, and my mom was just sitting there like she hated it.
Most moms hated Billy. Most moms, my kids love your show, but I can't stand hearing you.
Well, and as much as I say that we didn't have any problems with standards or anything, and we didn't, but I definitely did have sort of a poke the bear attitude. I knew Billy was bothering moms, and I just kept poking and poking.
Oh no, it was beautiful. It was beautiful.
I really have no one to blame but myself for where my career is today.
No, and my mom has done such a a change, because she used to be the kind of parent that would be like, you're not allowed to watch this show, and I would watch them anyway. The big one was South Park. Like I snuck South Park like no one's business. Like it was like a discreet, like I'd save it on a floppy disk, take it up to my computer that had no internet, and I'd wipe the floppy disk. It was ridiculous to try and watch that. But she's come around a lot to cartoons, especially since I've started making my own and doing more and more. And now she loves South Park, and I think Book of Mormon was helpful in that. But with that, I just will never forget how much me and my sisters would be quoting that. We'd just be screaming destroy us and running around the house and doing that. And so she just hated it. So we'd already been doing that. So when it was on the massive screen, she finally got to see what we were doing, where it came from. And I just will never forget how angry she was.
A little known fact is that was not looped. I said, for how many minutes did I go, destroy us all! Destroy us all! Destroy us all! I'll take the chicken. Destroy us all! Over and over and over. And I said,
generally we had you do that stuff for as long as you could until your voice came out.
Yeah, and then I would say, my voice is going out, and Adam would say, you auditioned the voice.
Oh,
you remember that, Adam? Remember?
That's what you get, Peter Zim. Free up your Wednesdays.
Free up my Wednesday, Tuesdays, Thursdays.
Malcolm's asking about the writing process on Billy and Mandy. Where did a lot of the story ideas come from? Did you have a writer's room? Was there a lot of improv from the voice actors at all at any time?
Yeah, it was done sort of super old school in that it's a premise-based cartoon. So generally, the storyboard artist writes it as well as draws it, and they are given or write themselves a one paragraph outline or however much they feel like they need if they're writing it. I would generally sort of write a pool of 10 or 20 episodes and then let the artists choose which ones they felt strongly about, if I could. Or later into the seasons, once I had the crew set up, I encouraged them to write their own, because writing, hundreds of episodes of a show isn't always easy. But
yeah, I was very fortunate, because I would say to Adam, I've got an idea for a show, for an episode. And he would say, what is it? And I'd say, oh, I wrote Bad News Ghouls, and I was Kristen, my wife, and I did Keeper the Reaper. But
right, and I think I warned you.
You did.
It wasn't going to turn out exactly like you hoped.
Yeah, and that was okay, because it turned out to be a very good episode, so I can't complain about it, and I still got a writing credit, so I don't complain. But that's what I'm talking about the generosity of the people that I work with. Adam, if I had an idea, he would always listen to it, and he'd either say no, or I'd say, yeah, write up an outline, and I would. Same with Viv on when we were doing Hell of a Boss, where I have an idea for a line and she would say, yeah, let's record that. And so it's cool. Just, I think it's the best shows, in my opinion, are a real collaborative effort. And I've never worked on a show, particularly in animation, where it's been just so my way or the highway, because animation in its nature is fluid. And so while we did have a storyboard with Billy and Mandy, Adam was never completely married to it. So he gave us the freedom to improvise a lot. And Gray would do a lot of improvising. We'd be like, oh my God, Gray, do you mind if we get a line in once in a while?
Chris's favorite note for me is like, and Gray, let's just get one as written. Can we just
That's true. That's true.
Well, that's my thing too, is like I want what I want, but beyond that, like, please give me other things, because like there's so much of you guys in your characters, and you know, when you get a bunch of people like in the room together like that, like there were times when like whole scenes would sort of just spring out of nothing. So it's always cool to just watch other people make things better.
So I do have to comment. I see that Malcolm Thomas said, so Richard was responsible for bringing Fred Fredberger into existence partially. No, partially, I was not.
Partially, if you hadn't written that episode, it never would have.
There would not have been a Fred Fredberger.
I remember when I was like so impressed that you wrote, because you were like, oh, my wife and I are writing an episode, and I was like, what? Oh my God, and you're like, you should write one, and I was like, I don't write things, and then Chris laughed at me. She was like, yeah, because you just improv most of the script.
Gray writes. Gray does stand-up comedy, and if anyone hasn't seen Gray's stand-up comedy, you're missing out, because she's very funny.
So nice, Richard.
And she's an amazing musician who's got a new album out right now.
Richard!
Yes.
And what's your Venmo again?
Yes. Oh Holy Night is the single that has just been released. And my favorite song is The Most Beautiful Thing I Ever Got to Make Was You.
I had just put out a record when we were doing this show, and Richard got it. He's such, that's one thing. Richard is a huge music nut. Like, he loves it. And he was always like regaling us with songs. Actually, it was so funny. Recently, you did a thing, like some kind of meet and greet online, and somebody was like, oh, they had to take Richard's meet and greet down because of all the copyright infringement, because he was like singing all these songs.
It was an Instagram live.
I won't sue you for you doing my song.
No, I would come in to the studio, and I'd be hooked on some, because Gray and I went through Gray has always been really into country music, and I was always into really old country music, and that's why Gray and I hit it off with country, because we like old country, classic country. And so I got hooked on my Loretta Lynn albums, and I would come into the studio and I would start singing, Gray, let's do, I will text Gray and I will say, I want to record Mamas Don't Let Your Babies Grow Up to Be Cowboys. That's still my goal. I think that Gray and I should do a duet together.
I have two sons, Harlan and Tex, so I'm already they're going to grow up to be cowboys.
Yes, they are. You blew it. They never stay home, and they're always alone, even with someone they love.
I want to try to ask Richard and Gray last questions before Gray has to take off. What do you both love most about the relationship between Billy and Mandy? Vincent asks.
Go, Richard.
Mandy would never admit it because she thinks that Billy's an idiot, yet she's always got Billy's back. That's the thing about this relationship, is that Billy becomes annoying to Mandy and she thinks he's an idiot, and yet she still hangs out with him and she's always there. So the fact of the matter is that it is the grim adventures of Billy and Mandy. So that's why one of my favorite episodes is when they're babies. And she right off the bat calls him an idiot. And so that's still one of my favorite episodes, because you get to do a baby voice. And
the balance too. You need that balance, that yin and yang. And even in my life, I'm just a loudmouth. I'm a blowhard. I'm always like, and a lot of my dearest friends and romantic partners are always kind of reserved, quiet people, because it's like I we can't have two of this, So I feel like Billy and Mandy really do balance each other. I have to say, Mandy was one of the most challenging roles I've ever done, because I'm such a loudmouth and I'm always like, and I'm big in real life. Like, my personality's very cartoonish. And And so what Colette just happened to kept dialing me down when I first started, and Chris kept having to pull me back too, because she would go, too big, Gray, do less, and pretty soon I was just pushing air through my lungs while I was talking and barely.
I remember this discussion actually.
Yeah.
And I would get notes like, "Not big enough, Richard. Not big enough."
You'd be like, "I'm dying." I tried to do recently the kind of rapid fire thing that Billy used to do. It's like, "See, what's those pants you're wearing? That's really cool. What's that ring on you? I want one of those." And like, I would have a lot of those. I'd have like a paragraph of like rapid fire stuff. And that is a workout. And I saw Chris recently and I said, I don't know if I'd still be able to rattle that off. She goes, "It's just exercise, that once we got into doing it, you'd be able to rattle off again." I guess I could, but that was one of my favorite moments with Scar, like his General Scar and Billy. He was just like the perfect foil for Billy. Billy. Yeah. But for Mandy and Billy, I think that they will always be friends in life. I mean, I think as they grow up, Billy, as much as Mandy may say she hates Billy, she loves him.
She does. She does.
He does.
She does.
Yeah, that was sort of the point when I started, was just taking these two personalities and pushing them as far apart as humanly possible, and then forcing them to be together.
We're the goth odd couple,
We're the goth odd couple.
I want
Ray, don't go!
I know. I'm sorry, my children.
Boo, children, boo.
Children.
Do not breed. I know. Yeah.
Wait, what? Just give them the big book of death. Let them study and then stay with us.
We are gonna choose a movie tonight, so maybe I'll let them watch some Billy and Mandy.
That's not a movie.
We'll binge it a little bit.
Big Boogie Adventures.
My son's always pausing because I dole out the TV in these teeny tiny amounts, so my children are like little crack addicts. They're like, "Can we watch something? Can we please?" I feel like I'm just creating like media, just like digital media for later. But anyway, like he always stops the thing to see how much time he has left on the show, and sometimes like I'll go out of the room and I come back and it's like been rewound a little bit so he could get more time, and I'm like, "Oh, this is okay." Waldorf kids, what are you gonna do? Anyway.
Thanks so much, Gray, for being here. Originally, this was just going to be Gray doing a voiceover, and she's like, "What if I got like Billy and Mandy people together and we made a little?" So thank you for setting this up.
I roped you guys into it, and then I'm bailing on you. Oh wait, before can I please promote? Richard and I are doing an event for Color World Books on November 21st from 6 to 10 p.m. where we're going to do hangouts. So go to colorworldbooks.com, and you can find info on my Twitter too, and I'm sure Richard's. But yeah, we're gonna do like one-on-one hangouts, and we're also gonna do a free panel. And Greg Eagles will be involved with that, and we're gonna do signings and messages and all kinds of stuff. So yes, he'll show up.
Did you say
Show up.
Yes.
colorworldbooks.com?
Colorworldbooks.com.
Yes, it's colorworldbooks.com.
Yes.
Period, like a period. Com? No.
Yeah. Maybe you can put a little link in the chat or something, and then people can find us. Yeah, because November 21st. Is that a Friday night? What is that, Richard?
It's Saturday.
It's a Saturday. Okay, great. So, so great. We'll see you.
Thank you for being here.
Bye, Gray.
Bye.
Love you. Mwah, mwah, mwah. Okay, bye.
Bye-bye, everyone.
See ya. All right, it's been good.
There he goes.
There he goes.
I'd pull the same prank, but I'm afraid I wouldn't be able to get back. So.
Let's see. I've been kind of jumping around the questions just to make sure everybody gets a chance to answer. A lot of questions for Viv. I like this. Viv,
it's not about me.
What would the hell of a boss how would the hell of a boss characters feel about Grimm, Billy, and Mandy?
Oh my god.
They'd probably be friends with Grimm, right?
Oh yeah, I feel like that would be the most chaotic combination ever, and kind of also partially due to the fact that one's horribly R-rated and the other one isn't.
I mean,
is
I can
so.
picture Grimm punching a clock in that world.
Yeah. Grimm would probably fit in very well.
And I'm getting questions about Millie and Stolas' new voices.
Oh my god, that's not the not the you guys stop. That's my answer for that.
We should talk about the Billy's new voice.
Yeah. So what? Why
clearly Billy wasn't needed on the Scooby-Doo Halloween show.
Hey, it's not my fault you didn't get Fred 5 or 10 years ago.
I didn't get Fred. I didn't get Freddy.
I just imagine Fred's lines, but Billy saying them. Let's split up, gang. Maxwell from Thomas. Where did the idea and concept for Underfist come from?
Underfist.
It actually kind of started as a joke, just a joke amongst myself and my crew about what a funny spin-off for Billy and Mandy would be. And then at one point I was like, I'm gonna write this down.
Yeah.
And that was just kind of it. Like there were just sort of these obvious secondary characters that I loved and other people seemed to love throughout the course of the series.
Yeah, Phil Lamar is Dracula doing his.
Yeah.
Oh
so
gosh,
the idea was to kind of like boost up some of these secondary characters and keep all Billy and Mandy and Grimm and sort of have them in a supporting role. So it would have been a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun for what it was.
It's a super
all that work
fun
and nothing
special.
to show for it, as Billy says.
It's a really cool special though. Like it was a cool special on its own.
Definitely.
Just to see those characters.
It was a great sort of fun, different way to end the series. And
Wait, the series ended?
no, I'm sorry. You're right. You're right.
News to me.
As Cartoon Network always says,
wow.
You're not canceled. We just didn't pick you up.
Yeah. Right.
A long hiatus.
It's like the Invader Zim movie. The Enter the Florpus movie it's been trending for a year. And I texted Jonah and I said, so I guess that's it. And he goes, yeah, you noticed that, huh? It's just like, no one ever said anything ever again.
I'm hoping they will.
Cool idea, though.
Cool idea.
All these shows that have the resurgence, I'm hoping, because we are kind of in the time of reboots and everything. And after a while, they decide, hey, let's brush the dust off and bring it back. So
it was what I liked about doing that movie was that the whole idea was it wasn't supposed to be a flash, like a nod to nostalgia. It was just another episode. It was just another huge episode of the show.
Yeah.
The colors had changed and it wasn't nearly as sharp in the lines. But that's because, it was 20 years later. So
yeah.
So I enjoyed it. It was fun.
That's the way I think I'd handle a Billy and Mandy.
Yeah.
If we did one today it would just be another episode. Like people ask me what would be different and would it be for adults? And no, it would just I'm sure it would be different because Billy and Mandy was a reflection on the times it came out of, and we're in different times now. But essentially, it would just be the same characters dealing with I got a dog back there somewhere.
So we're watching we're watching the first season of Billy and Mandy, and then we're wondering if we're going to get a pickup, and then we do, and you'll notice the character designs had changed. And I went to Adam one day and I said, why have the character design changed? And he said, because the animation house had lost all of our original characters. I
mean, there's a lot, for whatever reason, like everything that could go wrong did go wrong and we still survived. I don't know why, but the Billy and Mandy pilot looks vastly different than everything else. And Cartoon Network was like, well, don't worry, we don't air pilots, so you'll have time to retool things. And then when we got done, like as I said, they called and they were like, hey, we don't know what we're gonna do. So they ended up even though I won the big pick, they split the 12 half hours that I won with Robot Jones. We got 6 half hours, they got 6 half hours. And I think as part of that deal, like we had to use the pilot. So I didn't have a choice. They just put it in and it was like immediately into production. So it actually took me a couple of years to get the characters to a point where I thought they were animatable and right. Which I think we could have avoided if we'd had a little bit of development time in there. Definitely a weird show.
I think that like I get like very attached to the shows that I'm working on, like as far as the crew and the people and the family, and because I think there's a lot of emotional investment in it. I mean, I know there's a lot of voice actors that just go and say, hey, I'm just there for the day and I'm on to my next show and stuff. But a lot of my favorite times is spending time with the crew and with Adam. I mean, I'd spend a lot of time in his office. I mean, we'd finish recording or something and I'd go upstairs and I'd just hang out in his office, and he was very generous. He said, oh, you didn't get the Billy and Mandy doll? Here, this is for you. And he would just give me it. Remember that?
I wish I'd kept one.
I know. This is my.
Yeah, I didn't know there were dolls. That's so cute.
Cartoon Network made like a lot of internal stuff where it was just for people.
Oh, okay.
So there's like plush dolls of
yeah.
all the main characters. Fred Burger.
This is my favorite.
Oh, that's so cute.
This is my favorite. This is actually.
Is that the statue?
Oh, I hate that thing
yeah.
so much.
You hate it?
Yeah, I've seen
I
this.
do. I've actually I've signed apologies on the bottom of that thing.
Oh my god. That's so
Why?
cool. I love that. Why,
They're
yeah,
just
why didn't
so
you
they're
like
so
it?
horribly off model.
Yeah, well, most
And
of
I
the
know
things they put
that
out were
nobody
off
else
model.
cares about that. I understand.
Yeah,
I'm
but
sorry.
most of the
Yeah.
things
Apologies
they
on
put
the
out
bottom
were
of
off model.
I've worked with Sean Cashman, and he has that same statue.
I know.
Oh, Sean.
Yeah.
Is that
Yeah.
He's
that
still got the bullet ball,
internal
too.
one?
Yes.
Yeah.
Nice.
No, wait.
That's so
That
cool.
might have been like a Comic-Con thing, or
Oh,
I think that
okay.
was
Oh, okay.
a little bit broader, whatever that was.
Which one? The one that you gave me?
The one that you just held up there.
I still have the box too. It's up on my shelf. I have
So
everything.
you haven't completely devalued it.
No, it's like, so as soon as I'm broke because I'm not working, then I'll just start,
But
I'll
you're
start
working.
selling off all this shit. I mean, stuff. Sorry.
We have two different questions, one asking about the same thing, but two different characters. Inspiration for the inner frat boy, and then where did Fred Burger come from?
I don't know that there was any particular inspiration for the inner frat boy. I think he was just a character that came along when he was needed. And Fred Burger was actually this is the end of the story with Richard's writing of Keeper of the Reaper. Richard wrote Keeper of the Reaper, and it went into my pool of outlines. It was chosen by C.H. Greenblatt, who did Chowder and Harvey Beaks, and is working on a new show, Jellystone, for Warner Brothers. But he took that, and after a couple days came to me and was like, hey, I have this weird idea where I want to tell this episode from the perspective of this juror who's like this man baby, and he's a monster that lives in the underworld. And I was like, all right. So that was it from my perspective.
I was also on the jury. Remember?
Oh, yeah,
I was
you
the
were
guy
the,
that kept
Oh,
saying,
yeah, you
shut up! Why
What was
do you talk like that?
Oh,
and he came back for Big Boogie Adventure as well.
Yes, I noticed.
That's what that paycheck meant.
From Maria, was there an experience in your life that you put into an episode, or multiple episodes maybe? Anything inspired by real events that happened to you?
I mean, yeah, like kind of all of it in a weird way. Like, I mean, everything's sort of drawn from something you've experienced, or this is where my brain went first, because I've done it twice with the same dream. But I had this dream once that there was this crow in my room that was just like feeding me fear. It was just like on this doorstop, and it was just like I couldn't stop being scared of this crow, and there was no reason, and I somehow understood that it was forcing this on me. And then I woke up, and that's where the episode Duck came from for Billy and Mandy, with the farting duck. It was like, what's the funniest version of this, which would happen to be a farting duck. But then that same dream I used again in an episode of Bunnicula, where it was more literal, where there's a crow that's causing fear through the internet.
Wait. how come we never saw each other at the same time when I was doing Bunnicula?
I just happened that way. I don't know why. I didn't go to all the records.
I didn't even know you were working on Bunnicula.
I was the producer of the first season. I wrote the entire second season. I put as much Lugosi in there as I could justify.
I know. If only you'd put a little bit more of Lugosi in the Scooby-Doo Halloween special.
So angry.
It's the newest.
Yeah.
Shame.
They won't let me use Scrappy. They just won't.
Is he awful?
Kind of.
So
Scrappy's kind of on the outs. I feel like Scooby-Dum's on the outs. There's a couple that just don't fare so well.
Scooby-Dum.
Scooby-Doo. Scooby-Don't.
Yeah.
My own personal Scooby-Dum.
Oh, Viv, where's your cat?
He's around. He's right here.
You've got to see this cat.
Let me see if I can
look at this cat.
Is it
this
Pixel?
will melt your heart. It'll make you hungry and melt your heart at the same time. Look at that! He's huge now.
Yeah, he's so big.
Oh my gosh!
I had just got him when we were doing the Hell of a Boss report.
Oh my gosh,
so he was so tiny.
He would sit on her shoulder.
Yeah, he could like sit right back there. He's so big now.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah. He's a little cloud, a little marshmallow. He's just like, where am I?
Yeah.
You can't have a Zoom meeting without pet sharing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it always happens. Yeah, I have 3 cats now, so it's a lot, but I love it. I mean, I'll like walk around and I call them little sharks because they'll just be like roaming around like sharks do, like constantly moving, but just kind of like around my feet, and I'm just like, I have little land sharks all over the place. It's great.
I have an anonymous question for Richard.
Uh-oh.
This is mysterious. What do you consider your biggest challenges or artistic tasks when voice acting?
What are my biggest challenges? Can you repeat that, please, Nico?
Yeah. What do you consider your biggest voice acting challenges?
I think that I'm a very specific voice, meaning I have a very distinctive voice. And so while I can play Harold's dad, I can play Harold, Billy's dad, you always know it's me. But it doesn't stop me, because when I first got into this business, they said, if you don't do 100 different voices, you're never going to work again. You'll work maybe once or twice, but I chose not to believe that. And Vivienne knows my philosophy on this, is that the voice does the work of the spirit, meaning the spirit of play. And so people think they have to have 100 different voices, but it occurred to me at one point in my life that, I'll go to a Robert De Niro or a Meryl Streep movie and I'll follow them into their stories. And I still know that it's De Niro or it's Meryl Streep. But if the story's strong and I am disappearing into that story, you forget that that's De Niro you're looking at, or I feel the same way about voiceover. The animation changes, the stories change. I'm Chaos and Invader Zim from Skylanders and Invader Zim, and their voices are exceptionally similar because that's what they wanted. But the stories and my wants and desires and all that stuff changes. So if you ask me what my greatest challenge is battling the inner voice that says, oh, this has to sound so much different, I have to come up with a different sound and everything. I don't. Even if you look at like Viv's show on Hell of a Boss, you'll see that the majority of the people love the fact that it's Invader Zim, even though I'm not Zim in that story. I'm Moxie, and my personality is Moxie, completely different than Invader Zim. But it doesn't stop me because I play. And that's all that my job is to do. And Vivienne knows this, that what I believe from the bottom of my soul is that my job is to play pretend and play pretend fully. So this is my take on Superman. So I may not be what the theys are looking for in terms of casting or producing or anything, but my ability to play supersedes how many different voices that I do. The biggest challenge is just always like going, okay, I got to remember my job is to play pretend, not come up with a million different voices. And then there was a second part to that question, wasn't there, Nico?
That was it.
Okay, yeah, no, so I'd say
beautifully answered. Also, speaking of voice acting for both of you, to Viv, what were your motivations for having Richard and Maxwell in Hell of a Boss? And
oh gosh,
were they both in Hazbin or just Maxwell?
Just Maxwell's in Hazbin.
Okay. But I get a credit. I get a thank you. It has been. Thank you.
You do, yeah. I was in your class. You got me through a lot of like the stress, panic attacks with your anxiety mantra. So I was like asked to go in the special thanks. But yeah, originally it's kind of a story that goes far back because I remember. I mean, I started off as a fan. Most of the people I work with now, I'm still a huge fan of because I just respect everything everyone does. But I wanted to make my own projects, and originally it was Hazbin. So, but even before Hazbin, there was a project that I was trying to do, and I think initially I met you, Adam, through Dead Meat when you were starting out Dead Meat, and I was a volunteer working on it and wanting to try to fulfill this vision because even back then I was just indie stuff is where it's at, and it was really cool to see a creator that I grew up loving the work of entering this world that I was kind of in. So I was like, oh, this is cool. And then we met a few times in LA, every time I was in LA and stuff like that. And I think I just asked, I was like, hey, I have this a musical project that I want to do because I really wanted to work with do a musical project with some of these performers and voices that I really had always wanted to as a child I was these voices stuck with me and I wanted to involve them in my world because anyone who knows me now when it comes to character and when it comes to when I have somebody specific in mind for a voice, it's not so much I want this person because their name is really big. It's because that voice stuck with me and I'm there's no other voice that would fit this character other than that. So if I can get them, then it's set. So I was developing this project and it had a few other actors that I had met and fallen in love with their performances and their voices and I wanted it to be this bigger thing. So I asked you if you wanted to be in it, and then I asked you if Richard maybe would be interested in it. And this was ages ago. This was before Hazbin and everything. And
I remember that because Adam had said to you, don't mention Richard. I'm doing the new Scooby-Doo special, and I didn't.
This was years back, but it was kind of a crazy story because it was before Hazbin. So that project fell apart, and there was this bunch of years of me being all right, well, I'm gonna, and that's its own story. But I was gonna pick myself back up from this weird situation with a fraudulent production company and all this stuff. And so then I made Hazbin, and I think by that point I'd kind of been working with you a little bit on Dead Meat, and we're becoming friendly, friends. So I was of course I'm gonna have Maxwell in this. And then when it came to Hell of a Boss, it was a no-brainer because I'd already worked with Maxwell for Hazbin, and I love your voice is really distinct. It is distinct, and I remember that from way back, and I always thought it was really funny.
I'm pulling a Horvitz.
Yeah.
You gotta develop a Horvitz honk.
And it's so funny internally too. We the crew, because we've watched the episode for Hell of a Boss, the episode that just came out. So I'm happy I can talk about it. Is your first line as the dad, I don't know, Martha, everyone in when we watch it as a crew, our little, because everything we do is online, so we'll just be in group calls like this, and we'll be watching through the episode to see the progress and everything, and every single time the entire crew would just laugh at that particular line read. It was really so I don't know, I think as far as wanting to work, it's the same for any actor that I want to work with. It's just that when I hear a voice and then find a character in my head that I kind of associate that voice with, I usually design the character or aim the character's kind of personality on what I feel that voice can bring to it. And I just feel like growing up with Billy and Mandy and Invader Zim and like all these shows gave me a good catalog of like what that voice was and like what I would love to hear it do, and you know, just like just kind of like to play with that kind of thing and reach out to performers that I feel like would bring something new to this character, because like Richard said, like it's not the same. I didn't want to just make Zim again. I have a completely new character that I feel like is an interesting like thing that I can really put my own stories into, and like is completely different in terms of where their journey and who they are is. But like the voice, I feel like should be that distinct like uniqueness that only like one actor can bring. So that's kind of the way I guess I approach
when you were developing Moxie. Did you just hear Richard's voice at first?
Yeah, it was like it was one of those things where I always wanted to cast Richard as something, but I wasn't gonna just like, I don't like just going, I have a random character, I want to reach out to this one actor for it. It was more like I was interested in kind of giving a role. Personally, I like giving roles that do feel like they could have a completely new playground for a performer that I'm like, you know, I'm familiar with like a lot of the work of. I'm like, what does this character do that's different? And what I liked about Moxie is that I was developing Moxie as this like super romantic musician that like sings all the time. Yes. And I knew that like you love musicals and stuff, and I was like, I think that would be a good fit. Like I think that would work, and I'm glad that it worked out, because I've made you sing quite a bit now.
This is my favorite thing, and Viv and I have bonded over this quite a bit, because we will talk about our favorite musicals, our favorite Broadway actors, our favorite Broadway, like what's your favorite, and we'll sing. And I started out in musical theater. That's what I always thought I was going to do. I started out in equity at 13 years old. I did Oliver with Shani Wallace, who played the original Nancy in the movie, the 1968 movie. She played Nancy, and I was one of Fagin's boys and one of the Workhouse boys. And Dick Shawn was in it, and Stubby K, Nicely from Guys and Dolls, from the Frank Sinatra, Marlon Brando movie. And so that's always what I thought I was going to do. I thought I was born and raised in LA. And so my first big thing was doing this musical at the Aquarius Theater on Sunset, which is now the, Nickelodeon Theater, which is ironic. But that was what I thought I was always going to do. But I was born and raised in LA. And so your LA agents don't want you going off to New York to do, Broadway, going to TV and film. And so I never got there. I kept thinking, well, as soon as I'm done with this, I'll finally go to New York. And I just got older, and then I started having a family, and my voiceover career was going strong. And so I just never got to New York to do Broadway. But Vivienne's show lends to that part of me that needs to sing, because I'm a musical theater guy. Like at the very base of my soul, I'm a musical theater guy, which is why I wanted to sing. I'm not scared. I'm just really, really hungry.
Well, and on that tip, like that's part of the great thing about, working with people day after day, is you learn what they like and what they're good at. And I guess I did have a little musical during the first season, which is not anything I think is smart, but it turned out to be a good idea. But just after learning, like all you guys can sing, like
well, when Gray sings Somewhere Over the Rainbow, that was amazing, because she stayed in character that whole time.
And that's what blows my, those are the moments that I love the most, when you guys just knock it out of the effing park. And everybody else in the booth is like, because they can't make any sounds.
There's one that I did knock out of the park, because there's always something in every show I do where I go, ugh, I wish I'd done that differently. And it was when Billy raps in, I was just a horrible rapper. I was just horrible. But because I'm like old school rap, I said hip hop, hip hop, don't stop a rockin'. But we were living in the time of Eminem. And so I didn't have that kind of that kind of rap ability. And I believe that's probably what you were
But that episode was all about the old school rap.
Yeah, I could have done
I don't think you should beat yourself up with that.
I still think
I'll give you a list of things to beat yourself up over.
Okay, please do. I'll give you one. It starts with Scooby-Doo and ends with Halloween special.
From Maxwell, Daniel asks, were there any canned episode ideas that you wanted to do and never got to?
I'm certain there were, but I'm having a hard time thinking of what they might be.
Yeah.
We usually found a way, like even Billy and Mandy versus the Martians. Like I never wanted to do sci-fi, and then like our last season, I was like, I'm going to do my sci-fi episode, just get it out of the way. So I wanted that actually to be our big movie. That was my pitch for what eventually became Big Boogie Adventure. And my executive was like, no, that's, it's too sort of divorced from the premise of the show. And I did roll back around and just make that into a regular show, which wasn't that great. The weird thing was like, that was like, once I got the sci-fi out of the way, I was like, well, there goes sci-fi. And then literally the next week, Cartoon Network was like, hey, we're doing this big event with all the Cartoon Network shows are getting invaded by moon aliens.
Yeah, I remember that.
And weirdly, that one I think came out a lot better than The Martians. So you never know.
You never know.
You never
know.
Maria asks also, Maxwell, she's asking about the pitching process for Billy and Mandy. I'm assuming, so you pitched the pilot. Did you have to do additional pitching when it was picked up for series, or how did that go?
It was a weird thing in a weird time, a different time. Like people ask me now, like, how do I get into animation? And I can tell you, I can give you tips, but like it's 20 years in the past, and like even then I'm not sure it was normal. Like I was pitching from the moment I moved out here, just pitching shows. I worked at Film Roman for a while, got a job at Hanna-Barbera, came over there. This woman comes down the hall and she's like, hey, you have any show ideas? Because we're taking show pitches. And I was like, yeah, I do. So I got out my pre-prepared show pitch Bibles and I handed them over.
Cool.
And like 2 or 3 months later, somebody wrote back and they were like, hey, we're going to pass on this. And it was this show, superhero show called Milkman, about a living milk carton who finds, this won't make any sense anymore, finds missing children with using a mirror and looking on the back of his head to see their picture. And of course, obviously, nobody's going to greenlight that. So instead, I get the show with the Grim Reaper. But like there were these 2 kids in that Bible who were Billy and Mandy, who were leftovers from my college film. So the executives of Cartoon Network were like, hey, who are these guys? We like these guys. And I was like, oh, what a coincidence. Like, I like these guys too. So I started putting together the show. It felt empty with just the 2 of them. And I had this other show about a little girl and the devil. So I sort of fused those 2 together. Got Billy and Mandy and sent it off again to Atlanta. Didn't think about it. 5-7 months later, somebody wrote back and was like, okay, we're making a pilot.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
And
so
I don't think that's normal.
So you didn't have to like pitch to them. You just sent them the Bible.
Yeah, it was really unlike anything I've experienced before.
Yeah. I feel like
like
it's always different. But
yeah,
like
there is no normal. That's the other thing.
Yeah.
Is like, whatever your job is, whatever your job title is, there's no normal.
I guess it's like partially luck, partially like who hits a chord with it, like who resonates with it, I guess.
Was it a very detailed pitch, or was it?
No, not terribly. Usually the ones that I do the least on seem to go over the best. That's a lesson that I can't seem to learn, but.
I sold a pilot to Disney while we were doing Billy and Mandy, called Little Man Dan and His Big Fat Hand. But it was originally called Booger Man Dan and His Big Fat Hand. It's a long story, but I sold it to Disney, surprisingly. And I think I was talking to you about this as we were going through this. Remember when I was saying they keep wanting me to change everything, but they keep saying, you don't have to. You don't have to make changes. Okay.
I don't know what I told you back then, but in retrospect, the right thing was not to change anything.
Yeah, I wish I had listened to you, because the thing is that you change it so much in an effort to get a series that it ends up being not what you saw it to be, and then you don't even like it when you're done. It's like I don't even want to hear about that anymore, even though it was a brilliant idea in my mind when I came up with it. But what I did discover is what sells when I pitch, the thing that sells mostly, or at least gets me back in the room, is my passion about the project. You have to show your passion about it. So in this particular one, this was based on kids that I grew up with. And so it was like vivid in my imagination. Like I'm seeing it as I'm pitching it. And so for me, when I pitch, if I'm not excited about it, they're not going to be excited about it. You have to see it as you're pitching it. And that's what I learned the most about pitching.
Got it.
Yeah.
Huh.
I miss pitching. Nobody pitches anything anymore.
People are pitching via Zoom. That's not the same.
Yeah.
It is not the same.
I can imagine.
It's an interesting. I think the only thing I liked, because I can't talk much about it, but I was pitching during the pandemic, and the only thing I liked was that there was a lot of information, and I tend to repeat myself. So I had my little script off on the corner of the Zoom window and then the screen, so I could read it if I got sidetracked.
That's kind of nice, like just having notes.
Yeah.
It was mostly it was mostly just to make sure that I hit everything. Like it was like, oh, I already said, and I kind of prided myself on like I would go off script so much that I would be able to like go back to where I was supposed to go and then go, shit, I already hit that, or oops, there's no cursing. But you know, I was like, I already hit that, so then I would skip it and like go to the next thing, but like try to like do that without like getting caught of like oh, and then you know, so because I would go off the cuff so much, but it was handy for me, I found. But
I can give you a little inside information about when you're pitching to a streaming service. If you're pitching to Netflix or Amazon Prime, they want you to come in with your first 3 seasons completely fleshed out.
Yeah.
But there's a reason for it. And the reason is because they've discovered that if someone comes to a show late, they're not going to sit through 3 seasons. Like if they go, oh, I haven't watched a show, but it's 5 seasons. I'm not going to invest in it.
Yeah.
And so that's why they want to know your cliffhanger at the end of the first season, where it's going to go in the second season, and how you're going to end it by the third season. So,
hey, at least things get endings.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's true, yeah.
Like the Billy and Mandy ending. How did that one end?
They all died.
They all died. And now we've learned a valuable lesson about death.
Grimm became alive and everyone else dead.
Oh my God.
Reboot.
This is a really interesting question. I have never known anyone to ask except Maxwell here. So Billy and Mandy did a crossover with Kids Next Door. What was that like doing a crossover episode with another series? Did you have to like team up with the Kids Next Door directors, or like how did you handle a crossover of 2 different shows?
So when we won the Big Pick Weekend, I think it was the year after Tom Warburton for Kids Next Door won the Big Pick Weekend. So we both ended up making pilots at the same time. There was sort of this little group of like 5 or 6 cubicles where we'd be up all night, and then we'd go play Pokemon, like the card game, in a conference room, and then get back to doing our pilots. But we've known each other since the early days of Cartoon Network. And we'd always kind of bounce stuff off each other as time went along. And I did Big Boogie Adventure and Wrath of the Spider Queen and the extra specials that they threw at me at the last second. And I was like, I'm out, I'm done, see ya. And then I get this call that's like, hey, you want to do one last crossover? And I was like, okay. But it was really a good time. I'm glad that I agreed to it. Like Tom and his crew handled a lot of the heavy lifting. We had our board people do the boards for the Billy and Mandy sections, but it was really cool. I got to go out to New York and see Tom for the mix. We hung out for a while. I don't remember if I paid for that or Cartoon Network paid for it. Either way, it was a good trip.
Cartoon Network paid for
it. Good time. Yeah, we'll say that.
Paid for it. Can you talk about Dee's asking, Maxwell, can you talk about your process of designing the characters? Was Grimm a bit scarier in the beginning? Yeah.
Mostly I just wanted him to be really simple and iconic, like just the sort of the bare minimum number of shapes. So Billy is really just sort of 2 eggs and a trapezoid, and Mandy's like a trapezoid and 2 ovals, I think. And so really just keeping it really sort of UPA style bare minimum was the plan. And then the weird thing is, like, there's a lot of drift. Like, I did allow a lot of freedom to everybody, and in some ways that included designers. And when I look back at it now, I'm like, I could tell exactly who drew everything. I don't know if that's great, but I don't know if anybody else notices that, but it is sort of all over the
map. And will we be hearing any more of Voltaire's work with you? Stephanie asks.
I'd love to do something else with him again. He was actually, my plan was to have him do a musical number for Dead Meat, which is sadly not happening anymore, but someday we'll do something. I did get to run into him coincidentally, weirdly, like 3 years ago on a trip to Hong Kong and Thailand, where we both just happened to be going to the same 2 countries at the same time. So we both met up just at bars, and I spent a long evening in his hotel room drinking whiskey and probably a lot of Deep Woods Off.
Do each of you have a favorite Billy and Mandy episode?
I always make up a new one every time I tell the story, but the truth is, I don't.
I like Chocolate Sailor a lot.
I feel like that one's coming back into vogue right now.
I like Chocolate Sailor a lot.
Is that one getting memed yet? Is that one memed right now?
Just
okay.
Just eating his own hand.
That was actually that episode. I did have a list of like social norms that I wanted to break. Auto cannibalism was on there, and that was like one of the most challenging ones. Was like, how do I do this?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah, that one has one of the really solid jokes, like where he's like giving like all the lists of all the things, and the last one's just antidote.
Yeah.
And it's just like the most obvious thing in the world. Is that the meme? I don't know what meme.
Billy just
okay. Yeah.
I guess it is a metaphor for our modern times. So.
Yeah.
I also personally love the episode with Billy Hayes, which was the one which is I like pie, because she was with a fishing hook of pies, and that was Billy Hayes's character. What was that episode called? Do you remember?
That was I wanted to say it's the wishing pool, but that's not it.
Yeah, but it was like
that,
it was like the Twilight episode where you jump in the water. And yeah, which I love that episode. I thought just visually it was beautiful too.
Yeah, Chris sold me the same childhood fantasy on that episode, but I had no idea who she was, so I was just like, all
right. Because you're younger than everyone's younger than me, I've discovered.
I did get to like I never really like gush over people, and like probably if I like them, I'm less likely to gush over them. So there's probably like people that I love are like, that guy was up. But yeah, like I think one of my favorites of those was Malcolm McDowell for the Christmas special, just because he was so game to do Singing in the Rain. Like, got to that part. And
awesome.
Sometimes when you make fun of actors or the roles they've played, and they get to that point in the script, they'll be like, I was a little bit worried about that, but he was like, I love this. Yes, I never get to do this.
I'm always amazed at the people that I think are going to be hysterical when you bring them in, and those you expect are not going to be. And it's always the complete opposite. Like the funniest people that are known for comedy that I've worked with, in working with them, they just like, let's just get this done and be done with it sort of thing. I won't name names, but people that you think are not going to be as funny as they are turn out to be some of the funniest. Like Michael York Michael York was hysterical. We did an episode of Angry Beavers with him, and he and my job was always to go in and kind of loosen up people before we played, so that because I call it playing, and so we want to feel free in that booth. And so I go, Michael York, any relationship to Dick York of Bewitched fame? And he looked at me and goes, no, but I understand that Dick Sargent is a distant cousin. And so when he said that, I went, okay, this guy is funny. He's going to play. And he was great. Tina Easton, also one of the most fun people to play with in the booth. Arleigh Ermey from...
Oh, yeah. Were you in for his Billy and Mandy episode?
Yeah. Arleigh Ermey has been in every single episode. I mean, every single show I've ever...
Series of anything, sure.
Of anything I've been in. He is so much fun. He was, actually. He passed away. Tell great kids.
Who's your favorite guest you've had on Grim and Evil? Billy and Mandy too.
Grim and Evil.
It's hard to define guests. Like Fred would be, I think.
Fred Willard?
Probably, yeah. My favorite. If I had to pick
one.
I
suggested him.
Yes, you did. Thank you so much.
Fred and I were good friends. We did a lot of sketch work together. I worked with Fred for years when I was in a sketch group. I did the Golden Globes with him. I did a lot of Jimmy Kimmel appearances with him, The Tonight Show, and he was a great guy. And when we were doing who was he? He was the Big Boogie. He was who was he?
He was Boogie, right?
The Boogeyman.
Yeah.
So that was fun because Adam knew about my relationship with him, so playing with him in the booth was really easy. For me, it was always Billy Hayes. But of the people that we had on time and time again, I just loved Diedrich Bader as Haas Delgado was always so much fun.
Oh yeah, we had a fantastic recurring cast of
Loonies. Scotty Manville's Pinocchio is still one of my, hey, what's up here is Pinocchio. It was so good. But of big names, we didn't have that many big names on. Oh, Gilbert Gottfried as.
Oh yeah, that's Santa one of my top ones. Honestly.
That's a good one.
Oh, he was Santa. Oh yeah, I remember. I was like, wait a minute, what?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I had to fight so hard just to get that through the layers of Cartoon Network.
Oh my god. Was it a Santa Claus issue, or was it just to get someone?
It was a Santa Claus issue. It was a Santa Claus is also a vampire issue.
Oh my god.
It was a multiple pronged issue.
So
wasn't our first choice on that, right? There was someone else.
I think he was my first choice. There might have been somebody else. I don't know.
I think there was one other person that wasn't available, but then Gilbert was inspired.
It's fantastic.
You mentioned that Cartoon Network kind of canceled the show and then would bring it back. Did that happen multiple times, or?
I think we had 3 rap parties total.
Yeah.
So they would never say we're canceling you. They would always say we're not picking you up for another season. And I would say, so I'm canceled. They'd be like, no, we're just not picking you up for another season.
Okay.
And to their credit, they did pick us up eventually.
Yeah.
But I think it's that thing where, and this happens on almost every animated show I've worked on, not to this degree, but there's always sort of the crew who, would like to have steady jobs, and the show, which you all hope does well and you hope it gets renewed, but you always end up in this weird spot where the network's like, well, we haven't really aired yet, so we're going to let everybody go, and we'll just hope the ratings are good, and if the ratings are good, we'll bring you all back. And you're like, well, you in 2 months, if you want to bring people back, you can try.
Yeah, everyone's gonna go find
have jobs already.
Work.
Yeah. Did you end up losing a lot of your crew?
Yeah, and in my case, for the better eventually. I ended up with a fantastic crew that I was more than willing to give as much freedom as they wanted.
It's always an enviable position to be in, the head of a crew, as Viv and Max will tell you, when you get canceled or when things happen, because when you have to break, you carry this responsibility for your crew, and you do worry in that position that they're not going to get work, or they're not going to get I'll never forget when Invader Zim was canceled right in the middle of the second season. We had just finished. Yeah. We had just gotten picked up. People had gotten, new car leases and rented new places. And I'll never forget this day. I still have nightmares about it. We had just finished recording and I was asked to come up to the executive producer's office, and it was Mary Harrington and Jonan was in the office, and Jonan was like this in the corner. And he said, "We're canceled." I'm like, "What?" He goes, "We're done." I said, "What do you mean we're done?" Oh. And he said, "You know how we come in on Thursday to record and next week we're scheduled?" He goes, "Don't." And I said, "Okay, so why am I here?" And they said, "Because we got to tell the crew." And I'm like, "Okay, so you want me?" Yeah. He said, I want you to be there so they know that that we're not doing this anymore. I mean, he was really upset, and I don't blame him. I mean, it was an ugly, ugly time. And Ricky Simons, who plays Gurr, had just sold his own first episode for that show that had been, they were gonna produce it, and he was in the middle of writing it. And we went into that, he went into what I call the game room, because there was always a game going on. There's always a PlayStation being played. Everyone's just fun. And they're like, "Don't see what's coming." And Jonah goes, "Everyone, we have an announcement." And everyone got together, and it's like, "Yeah, we're done." Same thing they said to me. And it was silence. Everyone just went off in their cubicles, went off into their offices, closed their doors. And that was horrific. And so that is why I give my props to people like you and Viv and Maxwell, that that you carry that. Right?
It
wasn't easy.
Yeah, it's a crazy thing, because I've been friends with people on crews of shows that have been at their peak. I'm not going to share their stories, but it's that feeling of just absolute dread of oh my gosh, we're riding this high, there's supposed to be more. A similar thing happened to a show that one of my dearest friends over in a studio in Australia was doing recently, and it was so good, and it was so going up and up and up, and then just that sobering that all this chunk of episodes we were supposed to do, not doing them anymore. And then everyone at a party and with cake and shit, but it's nobody's happy at all.
Do we have a party? Adam, do we have a party at the end?
We actually had the last decent Hollywood cartoon party, as far as I know.
Were we downtown?
The Edison.
Downtown, yeah, that's right.
Cool.
Yeah.
Oh, the Edison. That's where we had our.
I think they felt bad for canceling us so many times, and they were like, "Okay, we'll."
No, okay, guys, this time we're serious.
That's a cool place.
How was it when Billy and Mandy finally ended? Were you obviously, it was sad to the show to end, but did you still have a ton of ideas left, or were you kind of
Is there more? Sorry.
Oh yeah. Go ahead.
No, I was satisfied, I guess. 76 half hours is a lot of time.
Dang.
And it's not it's not like I couldn't do more. I think I could do more now. I think at that point I needed a break.
Yeah. I think a reboot should happen.
I actually do have sort of a fun idea, but we'll see what cartoon.
Okay.
Assuming.
Yeah.
That's part of I'll tell you later.
Am I in it?
No, weirdly, there's a whole lot of people in, but I'll talk to you later, Richard.
I hope something develops. That'd be really cool.
That'd be cool.
Yeah. Thank you everyone for being here. That was really awesome.
Yeah, thanks. I can't believe it's already whatever time it is.
It's 12 midnight.
It was a good 2 hours. Yeah.
The worst part is I took a nap an hour before this started, so I feel like it's 9 a.m. right now.
Yeah.
Yes. Before we say adieu, I want to promote something that I
please.
Daily. Yeah. I do something daily called Some Kind of Joke on Instagram.
Is it funny?
It's funny. It's Cameron. If anyone was old enough to remember Summer School, a movie I did many, many years ago with Mark Harmon and Kirstie Alley, Dean Cameron, who played Chainsaw in it, he and I do a daily joke. It's called Some Kind of Joke. So if you go to Instagram, please follow us on Some Kinda, with an A, not kind of, joke on Instagram. But if you follow us on YouTube, we are Some Kind of Joke. Subscribe to our channel, we're Some Kind of Joke. But if you go and follow us on Instagram, we're Some Kind of Joke. And we do them daily. And we've done 100 today. I just posted our 155th episode. So.
Wow. God. Yeah. That's how we can know how long this has gone on.
That's exactly what it was.
How many episodes?
It was born out of the pandemic. We're like, we're gonna do these every day. And we play brothers, Michael and Fredo, and we do jokes, like classic jokes and narratives, and we try to make it so you don't see it coming. So it's fun.
Cool.
So check it out.
Nice.
Yeah. Have you, Mr. Adam?
Whatever else you'd like to plug.
Color World, colorworldbooks.com signing that Gray and I are going to do together. And other than that, a hell of a boss.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. Please. I mean, we need many, many more views.
Is there, Viv, are you having a stream or something with Richard? A hell of a boss?
There's like a signing thing going on. It's not really orchestrated by me. But I think it's like every individual actor. So like it's an opportunity for people watching to support the actors and get some signatures and some streaming, right?
Yeah. If you I'm doing my signing, it's an Instagram live signing this Friday. And if you're interested in getting a picture from Hell of a Boss, they've got a bunch of pictures up there. Some that were just created for this signing in particular. There's one of Moxie and Blitzo. But if you go to Streamly, STREAMILY, Streamly.com/Hell of a Boss, you can get your pictures. And my particular one is streamly.com/Richard Horvitz. And you'll see my Moxie pictures and then all my other character pictures also. My signing for that is this Friday at 1:30.
Cool.
Yeah. And when are you doing a signing then?
I'm going to be on with Brandon. So we're going to do it on Saturday, I believe. I need to get more information, but it's more about the actors. But I'm going to be helping him with his. I think we'll probably just be chatting about like, cause he co-writes with me. So it might be interesting. If anyone wants to know any of the insight, I guess we'll probably be getting into that.
And do you have any more Hell of a Boss? Do you have any more Hell of a Boss episodes coming out at all?
Yeah. When's the next one?
Yeah. So I can't I'm notoriously, I don't like confirming like the release date until like I know we can hit it, because I don't want to like be like, yeah, it's coming out here. Basically, yeah. When it's enough done that I'm like, we can do this, it's usually a week beforehand. That said, we're trying to get them out monthly. So like this month is the aim. Cool. So hopefully episode 2 is pretty big, but we're already like almost through animating episode 3, so we're already like things are like in place to be on time, and we're kind of figuring out our pipeline. We're trying to get to the point where like we can do them on enough of a basis to like really amp up. And I'm currently writing the second season, like the next block of episodes, so excited for that.
Awesome.
Very excited to do more.
Cool. Can I be in it?
Yeah. A little bit. Maybe. No, I'm giving you even more. I'm really excited because we're talking to like songwriters for this next batch of episodes, and we're gonna get like if some of the people who are interested are gonna stay interested, we've got some really cool people involved for this next one. So
yeah, and there's some cool stuff coming up. There's no doubt about that.
A lot of cool cartoons coming up.
Yeah.
Well, thank you all again.
Yeah, thanks everybody.
Super cool of you. And yeah, Billy and Mandy. It's a great show.
Yes.
Twas quite a time.
Yeah.
It was a huge influence. I would love to end this off with a sentimental thing of like Billy and Mandy was an enormous influence on me. So everything that everyone's seeing now from my end of things, like Hell of a Boss, it was a big influence on all the like weird kids that wanted to do these dark comedies and these dark supernatural characters. So it's an honor to have been part of this panel.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Ding! I like it up, I think. Yeah. I like
Oh, I miss that so much. I'm gonna get the Horvitz honk as like my car horn.
Install it in your
Place
car.
it with just that.
Unfortunately, the Horvitz honk is currently licensed by Vivzy Pop Productions.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
We're gonna be back, everybody, in 2 weeks at the regular 4 o'clock time, 4 to 6. And I think the second episode will be oh my gosh, and I really hope I say his last name right. Evan Spiridelis. He's the creator of Storybots, the preschool series Storybots.
Ooh.
So he'll be our guest for next time in 2 weeks. So thank you all for being
Right.
here.
Yeah, thanks everybody. Thanks for watching.
I hope I've met Maxwell, but I hope I get to see you in person after the pandemic or
right. Yeah, I keep saying there's got to be like a comic convention somewhere where we'll all
I want to have a party so bad. I want to have
Right?
a party so bad.
Yeah.
And Thanksgiving's coming up. I'm like,
yeah. No.
And I got a Ninja Foodie air fryer pressure cooker. So
my sister got one of those, and she can't stop.
I am in heaven. Everything in one behemoth pot. It's about. It's basically an oven.
Yeah, happy holidays coming up already.
Happy holidays, everyone.
All right, take care. Thank you so much again.
Bye.
Have a great night.
Thank you,
Love
guys.
seeing you guys. Have a good one.
I'll talk to you, and I'll talk to you, and I'll talk to you.
I'll talk to you and you and you.
And you were there. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.